Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of the Rush Hour podcast with a bonus Sunday episode covering MAGA turning on Trump. This is absolute wild time to be alive. This is not hyperbole. We are watching essentially, I would call it a civil war, but really everybody's on the same side, which is to say they are not accepting the narrative coming for Trump, given the cover-up of the Epstein files. As you guys know, this week, Pam Bondi basically released a statement, or they had it leaked out 1 week ago on Sunday by Axios, their report that there is no Epstein file. Now, call it a file, a list, a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint, a box of receipts. You know what I mean? I don't care what you call it. It definitely exists. And Trump is protesting too much, as they say. So we're going to get into exactly what he said here. I'm going to share all the responses. There is a response from the progressive section of the Democratic Party, which is to say they're calling on a vote to release the Epstein files. We're going to see people put their money where their mouth is. And I want to thank you guys so much. I don't normally do weekend videos, but I told you if you guys keep subscribing, I'll keep watching videos. You can see the last 3 days, we've had an absolute meteoric rise in subscribers for political content. Appreciate you so much. I always say the number one rule of a comedian is to be funny, but really you have to tell the truth. And when it comes to covering politics, not everything is funny, but we have to at least be as authentic as possible to call what we're seeing maddening. I don't know if Trump's sundowning. I don't know if he has dementia. I certainly don't know what's going on in his brain. But what I do know is this is not right, normal. If he was the CEO of a company I was investing in, I would pull out. If he was my boss, I would get another job. Yet he is the president of the United States of America. Here's what he posted yesterday, and it did not help his cause. What's going on with my boys, and in some cases, gals? They're all, and by the way, what a cult thing to say, right? He treats everyone as if they're just like little kids bending the knee to him. They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. Knock it off, he says. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. Well, I guess that's the theory. Is he alive? Did he have plastic surgery? Is he living in Bermuda? Or was he killed by governments, or who knows? For years, it's Epstein, over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, a laptop from hell, and more? Okay, that was a long sentence, but let's break it down. He says, oh boy, does he proofread these things? I don't think so. But he says, excuse me, why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama? Okay, so the files do exist. All right, listen. You might be, in the cult, and you might say, oh, Dave, why didn't Biden release the files? I don't know, nor do I care. On behalf of what I hope is most people who vote Democrat, throw Biden under the bus if he was part of the conspiracy theory. Throw the Clintons under the bus. I don't care. I want transparency as much as anybody. I'm not beholden to one political party versus the other if they're all part of the crimes. Let's find people that don't take money from dark campaigns. And by dark campaigns, I mean campaigns where you don't know where the money comes from, or foreign lobby groups like AIPAC. Really don't take money from anyone except constituents, small donations. I only trust at the very least, our political leaders who do not take super PAC money. Because they're not beholden to us, they're beholden to someone else. But he says they created the Epstein files. Okay, so they exist. Just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, I saw the dossiers, the radical left, the this, that, kind of a Mad Libs, fill in the blank. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? Good point, good question. Better late than never. If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the JFK or Martin Luther King files. No matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, and a safer world where Iran will not have nukes, it's never enough for some people. I'll give him credit with securing the border, but at what cost? Now, I'm I'm okay as a progressive-minded person admitting that there was a border problem. Now, did Trump have the Republicans kill a bill that would have helped the border so that he could run on that? Absolutely, but it was too little too late. Biden's administration exacerbated a problem at the border, and maybe they did, for whatever reason, that's just what happened. That's it, period. The left needs to admit that and needs to sort of take up that space and say, we'll continue to work on the border, but we need to bring back humanity. We need to stop disappearing American citizens. We reported on that yesterday. We need to stop rounding up people X, Y, and Z. And folks have said, well, but Obama and Biden deported so many people. How come no one talked about that? Well, it's my belief because they were provided due process. We need an infrastructure system that provides due process, which is guaranteed in our Constitution, whether you're a citizen or not. And we can just round people up and put them in, these detention centers without having access to a lawyer. And again, if this was a problem that existed before, okay, let's build upon that and let's fix this problem. But that doesn't mean, putting people in an alligator island or whatever the hell they want to call it, some weird theme park in the swamp. All right, so he goes on and on. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen. They tried to do the same thing in 2024. So he says, quit looking back on Epstein, and then he brings up the 2020 election, which of course was not stolen. Absolutely. And I'm not claiming that the 2024 election was stolen, but what we do know that happened in the 2024 election was that there was massive, massive issues with people contesting other people's votes in certain swing states. I think something like 4 or 5 plus million people's votes ended up not being counted because they have this rule where citizens, it's kind of like a Jim Crow law. It's super racist, but citizens can basically look on a roll, see someone's name, and if it doesn't sound like a white presenting name or whatever, they can just contest that person. And if that person doesn't come back to re-vote, their vote doesn't get counted. I mean, it's absolutely bananas, some of the legal things that can exist out there. We need to vastly overhaul the system so that it is fair and everybody gets a vote. It should be a national holiday. Everyone's vote should be counted. It should be way easier to vote, of course, with proper documentation that you're a citizen. But this idea that we can only vote in a system where, the counties are all cut up in ways to benefit one party versus the other, that ain't democracy. So he continues. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And by the way, MAGA folks not responding kindly. Here is somebody setting ablaze their great red hats.
I'm not going to play with these anymore. MAGA hats are off. America First hats are on.
So there it is. Okay, getting a lighter going, some, extra fuel there. Okay, that's it. And again, if say someone was running for Congress did this, it would be considered terrorist. But it's someone in the MAGA movement. They're lighting their merch on fire. They no longer want it. Is there a solution from the Democratic Party? Well, some people will sit on their hands. Maybe they're complicit. I don't know. But here's Ro Khanna. And here's exactly what he wants to do to keep this movement going for transparency.
Today I'm calling for the release of the full Epstein list and all evidence regarding sex trafficking in the Epstein files. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance promised this release. They're betraying that promise. We need full transparency and a release now.
Now, he might know that there is no such thing as the Epstein files, which I do believe there is, but, it's either they don't exist and Trump knew that and was fanning the flames to create this culture war issue, I'll expose the deep state, or they do exist and they're sitting in their hands, sitting on their hands right now. So Trump, of course, has stopped talking about Epstein, and just over and over we see people. Of course, Trump's own son said a couple of years ago, show us all the Epstein client list now. Why would anyone protect those scumbags? Trump was ratioed on his own echo chamber platform. That being, of course, that there's 19,000 comments, more comments than hearts, which is people going, look, you can't talk your way out of this one. Show us the dang files. Trump has more comments than likes on his Epstein Truth Social post for the first time in the history of the platform. I mean, that's a big deal. This is his platform. These are his people saying, no, not really. This is Frankenstein. He created a monster. Now, why does that transparency matter? Well, if there isn't because, is the Epstein list important? Absolutely. But there's a lot of other important things too. Pentagon now confirms one Iranian missile did impact U.S. military base in Qatar after satellite imagery reveals impact. Contradicts previous statements made by top U.S. officials. This is just another example where we're told one thing and then we find out something else is true. You hear about this in North Korea, right? Where the supreme leader will tell you he's the greatest soccer player of all time. And, oh, thank you, supreme leader. And you have to cry and weep uncontrollably or else you're seen as not a good American. Well, we're being told that we had the greatest military attack ever on the base in Iran, and then we find out, well, they probably got the nuclear material out beforehand. We don't even know how deep it hit, and then their retaliatory strikes actually made contact. So what a win, man. And I bring this up because if one thing is true, then what? That's a very standard rule with improv comedy. If this is true, then what? If I live in this reality, then this would happen. And you apply one logic, and then you have to apply it to the next. Well, when we bring it here to the Trump administration, if it is true that they're covering up the Epstein files, it would be very logical to assume they're covering up a lot of other things. And I think that's what's leaving people really irate. Here is turning point action. So this just happens to be going on over the weekend, which is going to have a whole slew. Actually, we'll come back to this clip, but there's a whole slew of people talking, and virtually nobody is siding with Trump, and these are Trump's people.
Drop the files.
Free the Epstein files.
I think a lot of people are to blame.
We are the boss of the government. Yeah. And them hiding stuff from us, that's not good government.
Where are they?
I'm incredibly disappointed with how this administration is handling the release of the Epstein files. We were promised certain things, and unfortunately we haven't been delivered those promises.
The American people want to know. The truth needs to come out.
I'm definitely not a fan of how they're dealing with it. I mean, the American people have been waiting for this for how long?
I think they should upload it to a Google Drive and just dump it on X.
We know Santa's naughty list, but we don't know Jeffrey Epstein's list.
All right, there it is. All right, kind of weird, but these folks, I mean, they got a point. Here's Megyn Kelly.
This could actually cost Trump in the midterms. We need to make a smart choice right now. We can't lose any of the MAGA base.
And let me just also reiterate this. And by no means did I want our very big student action summit to talk about Epstein, of all the things. I'm not Epstein obsessed. Some people, their YouTube channel, it's all they talk about. I think that the fact that young people can't afford homes is something we should talk about a lot more than these things endlessly.
And by the way, this is what irks me, right? He talks about young people affording homes, and this is where the Progressive Party has been for so long. Not the Democrats, not the far left, the progressives. You need to separate some of the cultural issues that people want to talk about versus economic. The progressive economic issues, getting money out of private equity groups that are buying up all the homes. My generation doesn't want, a white, gated fence at a home they rent. They want to own it. So these problems exist, but what is the current administration doing to provide a solution?
What happened was they invited all of them there to say hi to the vice president, to say hi to the president. Sure, they all went, of course. Who wouldn't go? To the White House to say hello to Trump? They didn't expect anything on Epstein. So they went, they said hello, and before they knew it, they were pulled into a room with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and she had made the binders. She bragged about making the cover sheet that read Epstein Files, Phase 1, and she handed them out. And what Liz Wheeler, who was there, told me was that she told them, there's not that much in here, but another trove is coming. I'm going to get it from the FBI, but here's Phase 1. Flash forward 14 hours earlier to when she was on with Jesse Waters on Fox News saying, oh, you're going to see some Epstein documents.
But my big problem here is everyone wants to throw Pam Bondi under the bus. Sure, go ahead. But it's just the next thing's going to pop up. They all work for Trump. They all create this chaos because it's what Trump wants to see. So actually, let's go. Speaking of, I'll play these other clips, but this was one of the stooges, one of the guys that was duped with the Pam Bondi political stunt.
I was brought to the White House for a series of policy briefings, and along with a number of other conservative individuals. Mike Cernovich is there, Scott Pressler was there, Sav Hernandez, the great Liz Wheeler, DC Drano, just libs of TikTok. Everybody knows these guys. And we were told that we were going to be meeting with a group of cabinet secretaries. We met with Secretary Rubio, with Secretary Kennedy, the great Bobby Kennedy. We met with Vice President, and even the President himself actually did us the incredible honor of visiting. But then when AG Bondi came in, she brought with her this set of binders and said, "Hey guys, you all want the Epstein files, right?" And we're sort of looking around going, well, no one said anything about Epstein on the agenda today, but sure, we all want to know that.
Okay, so then, of course, she gives them these like Xerox, straight out of Staples binders, and there's really nothing to it. But of course, it creates this publicity stunt, and I mean, it's almost like they're not living for the next day. It's like, sure, that's going to drive the news cycle that day, but then what? Do they not think these people are going to follow up?
I think Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are absolute American patriots, and it would be a disservice to this country to lose those individuals. What I will tell you is that trust is only restored through radical transparency. As you know, I'm the chairwoman of the task force on federal declassification of federal secrets, and to my knowledge, the FBI can release certain information not pertaining to CSAM or victims. I believe the American people deserve that, and so I encourage the DOJ to do the right thing.
I mean, look, if they're encouraging the DOJ to do the right thing, they should want to be a part of Ro Khanna's agenda, right? So this is a chance to work across the aisle. So, he's going to introduce this bill or this vote, and, you'll get to see who's willing to vote for it and who's not, and then we can move from there. I think that's the fairest thing to do. Now, here we have Pod Save America talking about how effed the MAGA movement actually is, because Trump is trapped. He is the ringleader, the king, the cult leader, but he is trapped.
Now, and Megyn Kelly and all these journalists, they're asking for a list that either doesn't exist, which means they can be asking for it forever, and they will never get the answers they want, or a list that does exist, but is so damning that the Trump administration has decided to bury it.
Yeah.
So, and either way, these questions will continue forever. Like someone, Elijah was asking me this morning, we were talking about like, would Pam Bondi, do we think she's toast?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he ever going to fire her? He can't.
Right.
Because the litmus test for the next attorney general, the only litmus test would be, can you provide the list?
And by the way, there is Matt Gaetz is trending. He was supposed to be the attorney general. He resigned as he was being looked into for escorts, underage escorts, sex trafficking, and other crimes. And they had a whole file on him. So they want him to possibly be a special prosecutor here. I mean, look, it doesn't solve any of the issues at all. But either way, he's trending. And listen, this idea, it's like Pam Bondi or Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. What's it going to be? Well, it doesn't look like Trump's turning on Pam Bondi anytime soon. So will Kash Patel and Dan Bongino do what they threatened to do, which is resign over this? And if so, will they then become part of the resistance and talk about, apparently they signed off on these memos. So did they lie to Joe? Did they lie to Joe Rogan's face when they said, "Listen, trust me, we saw it. There's nothing there," or is there more to the story? And if there is more to the story, I mean, if there wasn't more to the story, why would they threaten to quit? You know what I mean? So maybe they were promised certain things that didn't pay off on the back end. I honestly don't know, but folks are going to have to reckon with the fact that this could be the end for Trump. It really could be if he's in these files in ways that are very, very bad. And I understand why people would grapple with, well, then how come they never presented this before? Well, because you might have people like the Clintons and others that are in it. You really don't know. You really don't know. But it could be as sinister as they say. And if it wasn't, I don't understand why they haven't been more transparent.
I'm getting sick and tired of being lied to. I'm being sick and tired of all the lies. And by the way, I don't care if those lies are coming from someone with a D next to their name or someone with an R next to their name.
Brother, I'm with you. So let's get rid of those in the Democratic Party that are also lying. Let's primary them. Let's put in people that are not accepting these lobby groups, money from big pharma, big health insurance, from the military industrial complex. I mean, we were so happy. I mean, as much as I disagree with all the policies being presented, I wanted Doge to go after the big military industrial complex. I wanted them to crack down on that. I thought the big beautiful bill was going to be the thing that changed MAGA's mind, where they said, look, we're not decreasing the deficit. I thought that's all that mattered, was Doge is going to help decrease the deficit. And maybe that's only partially why Elon Musk went absolutely nuts on Trump. Maybe there was other reasons, Trump not hiring his guy and not in the EV tax credits or whatever. But I thought we all would have agreed on one thing. This guy says, don't lie. I agree with that. But also, let's decrease the deficit. Let's tax the ultra wealthy. Literally, there is nobody in this country that is a voter that would object to taxing the ultra wealthy. We have to realize we have more power than the 80 billionaires.
I'm sick of the lies, and I'm calling you all out. So, I got a question. Sure. How many people in this room, raise your hand, you hear about January 6th? You guys remember January 6th, right?
Yeah, it was an insurrection.
How many of you supported a January 6er through donations, through money, through tweets, through social media? How many of you stepped up to support January 6th? Let's see a show of hands.
Weird.
Incredible. Well, let me tell you something right now. I will not rest until we go full Jan 6 committee on the Jeffrey Epstein files and every single client that was associated with this thing has an FBI agent at their door on their phone going after them.
By the way, if we didn't know that these characters were really MAGA sort of personalities, you would think this is some sort of inside job to destroy the MAGA movement. That's how wild it is to watch what's happening right now. Not hyperbole. We're just checking it out. I wanted to let you guys know, if you are new to my channel, I've got a podcast called Rush Hour with Dave Neal. You can listen to it anywhere you get your podcast. I upload my Monday morning episodes at Sunday night at midnight, so you can have those ready even if you have an early work day on Monday morning. Every afternoon, pop culture, politics, and I'll try to bring in a little bit of levity to it. So thanks so much for checking us out. Link in the description for that, and have a good rest of your weekend.